Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn. And finally, I want to concentrate on cedar. Last video, I intended on doing that and ended up cutting some fir for sail logs. As you saw on the way out, it's sort of blustery. It's about 21 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind is blowing maybe gusts of 20-30 miles an hour. Occasionally snow squalls. On the way out we didn't have any. It was just a little bit of flurries and mostly blowing wind. But we come into the woods and down over this hill. It's a different world. It's quiet, serene. Alright, so let's turn our attention to cedar, such as that little guy there. They're just all over the place. Some are straighter than others. That one has a little cup of bow. That one there has a little double top. And ones like this one, which I marked, I just had a broken top. But it's not that big of a cedar, but I can salvage some for sale. What I meant to talk about last video was the market I have for cedar. So this is eastern white cedar, northern white cedar. So there's two markets I have close by, two buyers, sawmills if you will. One is deals with basically larger logs. Their minimum requirement is 8 foot long, 6-inch diameter at the top end. They make cedar lumber as well as components for cedar log homes. The other one, which most of what in fact I probably will just make one trip to this other place, which is a fence company, only because they take smaller material and most of what I'm going to cut is going to be smaller. They will take larger material, but they take down to a 6 foot long, 4-inch diameter top. So something like that will fit into that. They'll take 6 foot, 8 foot, and 10 foot rails. Rails are sold by piece, $5 each. The others are bought by each $5 each. The rails are 10-foot rails. I think that's for split rail fence, so they must have some method of splitting them. The other ones are sold by what's called a face cord, which is an odd measurement. You might have heard of it. A face cord is simply a cross-sectional area of 4 by 8. So 32 square feet. Normally it's 4 by 8, but any combination that gets you 32 square feet is a face cord. But depending on the depth of that face cord depends on the volume. So they have a different price for a face cord of 6 foot, which I think pays in the mid 200s, maybe 270, for a face cord of 6 foot cedar. And 8 foot face cord is like in the mid 300s, 350, 370, something like that. So you might have heard of face cords for firewood, but again, a face cord is just 32 square feet. So whether you have a face cord of 16-inch logs or 12-foot firewood, or 24-inch firewood or 18-inch firewood, it's all going to be a face cord, but you'll have different volumes, different BTUs of each. A little bit of a sidetrack. So today is really going to be some cleanup. I do have a couple areas where it's going to be a little bit dicey. I will need my winch to haul some out. But ones like this will just be a simple cut to length. My plan is to set these roadside and then come through later and pick them up. But the problems I've had in the past, particularly when I just have 1 or 2 pieces, they'll get buried in snow and I won't see them. The other caveat with a cedar is time is of the essence, because they're only buying it for another 3 weeks and then they shut people off. This is a cold winter. A lot of ground is frozen much harder or much more widespread than normal, or at least in recent years. And cedar is a species that grows in really wet areas, so really the only time to harvest it is in a winter like this. So they are flush with logs, and so they will shut buyers or sellers off so that they can work down their inventory as long as they have enough to get through the next summer, or maybe even the next couple of years. But cedar, thankfully, does store well in the yard, so it doesn't deteriorate like some other species would in a log form in the yard, sitting for a long time. Oh, and I have all kinds of nice cedars like this one. It's a perfectly straight tree, just a small one. It's crowded a little bit, so it's got a little bit of placeholder trees, if you will, or a little bit of stifling of the light. So some of these at some point I'll probably open up, like there's a red maple and a dead fir next to it there to the right, which probably could go. Red maple to the left, which probably keep because there's probably a 16-foot saw log there that'll just continue to get bigger and better. So I have marked several of those sort of roadside cedars along this road because this is a road where I don't normally have access like this. Well, that first tree that we just looked at, the one with the broken top up there, was a bust. I cut it. There was a big rotten hollow to it, which is funny. One of the benefits of cedar is it doesn't decay unless it's growing. Not frequently, but occasionally you'll see cedar with sort of rot, right up the center of the tree. I'm guessing it's some sort of a different fungus or organism that does that versus what you normally would see, like in an outdoor setting where cedar is decay resistant. But who knows? So this is the next stop. So these are sort of a double stem root ball or tree. Foresters have suggested that over time I cut these to make a single stem. The one growing right next to it I'll sort of consider a separate tree. I'm not sure if they share the same root ball or not. But this one here, we got to pick one. So generally speaking, oftentimes like this one, you'll see one which is straighter up and down and the other one will be leaning more. Generally, unless there's something telling me to take the straighter one up, I'll take the one that's leaning because I think they're more susceptible to freezing rain, ice, wind, heavy snow, where they're more likely to break off. Cedar is a very weak tree strength-wise. They will often bend over or break, probably like that first one we saw with heavy snow and ice. So this one is the one I'll take down. Generally, I'll cut them up here a bit higher and then do a more neat cut where I can sort of make a decent cut here without damaging the bark on the tree that I'm going to leave. So that one will stay, even though it looks like it has a funky area up there. And this one will stay. So this is typical with cedar. My hinge is actually probably a bit too thick, so I'll cut that down a little bit. But because of all the limbs, particularly with nearby trees, I'm trying to fell it that way, even though the lean is to the left. But oftentimes we get caught up in branches, so what might end up happening with this is I cut it, let the stump fall to the ground, and deal with it that way. But let's see if we can get it to tip over. We should get plenty of material out of this. It's always a challenge, you know, what combination of 6, 8, and 10 foot does it make sense to cut this into. You can see the branches here basically holding up the top part of the stem of the tree. Got a little bonus that fell down in front of the camera. So I did end up cutting into this, which was something I was trying to avoid right there, and then a bit there. That's probably where I'll leave it. I normally just try to cut it up as much as I can before it starts fusing together, and that's basically it. But now we have a single stem. So the theory I think behind this is if you put all your energy towards one stem, you'll grow more material, better log, than trying to use the same energy, sunlight, minerals from the ground to grow 2 stems. Anyhow, I think that's what it is. Alright, so I'll limb this guy up, cut it into pieces, and just sort of push it off to the side of the road and hope that I don't forget it when I drive by here to pick stuff up. So there it is. Nice, rich, dark green leaves. Nice, healthy tree. Something about cedar which I need to research, because a lot of times I'll see cedar, and generally the ones out in the open rather than secluded here in the woods, where the needles turn yellowish. I think it's just in the winter. I think they turn back to a darker green in the summertime. But I keep meaning to look it up and keep forgetting. So I ended up cutting 3 8-foot logs. This is the last one. It's got to be 4 inches in diameter. We can see here that it is 4.5. So that's all I could get out of that, which is plenty. Nice straight sound wood, clear on one side because the branches didn't grow and it was adjacent to the other one. So a good amount of clear material. The rest of this will be deer food. I've cut a lot of cedar, mostly interference when I'm cutting the pasture spruce. Initially they came out with a vengeance and started chewing these, but they've slowed down, I'm guessing. I'm guessing the deer population here is somewhat limited, and when they're full they just stop eating. That's what I would do. So I'll clean the branches up, throw it off the road, put those 3 logs to the side of the road to be picked up later. So the next item on the agenda is not a cedar, but it's in support of cedar. It's that fir right there. So that fir is sort of overtopping that cedar next to it and interrupting a little bit that cedar right behind it. So this is not a bad tree, it's just in the way. I will take this down and make some 16-foot saw logs for sale. Take it while the taking is good. So it's got a little bit of a lean towards us. I'm going to fell it right there across the road so the crown will land on the other side of the road for easier cleanup. I'll probably get 2, maybe 3 logs out of that. There it goes. The wind's finally taking it. Yeah, I was hung up in the branches, both in the cedar to the left and that spruce tree to the right. I didn't want to cut any more of the hinge because might have twisted and gone where I didn't want it to go. It was leaning in good shape. So it's just a matter of waiting for the wind to take it. You can see the wind up there. It's nice because we don't feel any of the wind down here, it's just up there. So I was only able to get 2 logs, 16.5 feet each, so 33 feet worth of stem. The top, just last log didn't have enough diameter, wasn't big enough on top, so just limbed it, cut it up, and there it lies. Open that up nicely. So I did end up cutting this because there's no way that I could turn this around 90 degrees. My plan was to sort of just push it off to the side of the road parallel to it and then take it out on my way out and add to that a pile of saw logs that you might have seen coming in, which would have been on the right hand side coming in. So I ended up cutting it, so probably we'll go down there, do work, turn around, come back out this way. I'll just push through this and then grab onto each of them separately with the chain and the cable. So the next target is actually right here. So you can see this cedar was busted at the top. I'm not even sure where the top went. It's probably buried in the snow somewhere. But it looks as though we'll get at least a 6, maybe an 8 foot piece out of it that's at least that 4-inch diameter on top. So I just got that little 6 foot piece there, about 5 inches diameter at the top. From that broken tree right there. So let's head on to the... Alright, now comes along this clump. So my plan here, this one is the top's already broken off. I don't know if it's... I'm not sure if any of those branches are live. I don't think so. I'm going to take this one down. And you can see this one has already started to split, and eventually this one will probably just fall off, you know, and sort of open up this entire trunk all the way down who knows where. So assuming I can reach high enough on the ground over there, I'll just cut this guy off, try to fell it maybe into the road, because if it falls right where it does now, it's going to land pretty much on that cedar tree. That particular one's not anything to write home about, but alright, so I'll take this down first. We should be able to get something out of that larger stem there, and then work on this fork. So you might be able to see now that tree is completely severed from the stump. It's being held up by the wedge and the branches up there. So I just have to figure out how to push it to get it to go over. I guess it's going to go in the road. A limmy hemlock holding that guy up. I might be able to get two pieces out of that larger stem. So with this stump, gives me better access to take this dead one down. I'll just neaten this up a bit, take care of that other one, and then we'll tackle this. So I cleaned up that crotch. That dead one actually Turned out to be a nice log. I mean, there's a little bit of punkiness there, just on the one edge there. But that was an 8-foot log. Out of that scraggly one, I got an 8-foot and a 6-foot. That's what's there. On this one, looking in here, I noticed it was quite, there was another branch that fell off years ago because it's actually started to heal over quite well. But you can see how much this crack has opened up. So the way it's leaning is just going to go right into the road there. Or, I'm not sure, I may force it to go to the left of that cedar tree there, stay out of the road. I don't know. It's gonna get caught up to some extent in the one of those cedars, but it'll probably still come down. But I just soon not damage those young firs over there if I can help it. So what I'll do is make a notch here. Try to direct it. I think I'll direct it between those two cedars, because if I damage those young ones, that's fine. And cut the backside in here and just hope it goes the way I want it to. Well, it did what I wanted it to. Thinking I'll have some sound wood up there, several pieces. I may clean this up a bit, so hopefully it heals over a bit easier. And then there were 3. Well, it does look better. Over time, I guess we'll see if I made any improvements or not. This is another one of a casualty of some sort. Looks like I must have cut that off some years ago. So I get the top there, I'll just limb that up and then throw it off to the side with the other stuff. Okay, move on to the next one. Before we move to the next one, one thing I don't think I've mentioned yet. I have talked about reducing these multiple stem instances to a single stem. But I've also been told that cedar can be sensitive to significant changes. Either, roots being disturbed, or significant portions of its stem being removed. So knowing no different, I guess I'll take that at its face value and just do this sort of incrementally. So what I'll do now is just let this be and just monitor it over the next several years and see if there's any of these others that are not taking too kindly to this and dying off. And then, if that's the case, then I'll take that one off. If they all look healthy, then I'll probably pick one, take it down, and let the other 2 grow, and then take the last one down, years after that. So that's my methodology throughout several areas of my property that have those instances of multiple stems in the cedar. Okay, this next one here is just a stone's throw away. So, this looks very dead, except got that little sucker branch that started to grow. Like the other one, cedar is pretty resilient. It's not so much resilient, because I just said the opposite a second ago. Indoors, I guess. So it can be dead and still have sound wood in it. So even though this looks like it's a lost cause, I'll take this down, clean up these other stems, because this is the decent one here of the bunch. It still has a crown to it, even though it's got a double stem there. So I'll just clean this up and we'll take this one down and see what it looks like on the inside. So I think we'll get some decent material out of here. The butt of it had hole, as does its sister tree here in that branch that I cut off. But it cleared up. Cut off 3 pieces and pretty sound. Probably get 3 or 4 pieces out of this. So I just managed 2 8-foot logs out of that one. Well, we'll see. I'm not sure if that'll grow up to be anything good or not. So there are some other clumps up here. That one, that I'd like to take out, but there are so many of those around. There are actually a couple others that I would rather get as priorities, and before I tackle those other multiple stem root balls. So that bunch of trees there are all cedar that uprooted and fell into this other cedar. So that's going to be our next priority. So this is quite the tangled mess. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is just clean up underneath here. You know, that dead one there, this junk fir. I may even take down that cedar. There's a couple cedars, 4 cedar in there, the one closest to us. I don't know. The top actually still looks good, so if I can save that one, I will. But the other problem is they're all uprooted there. So the butts are over there, and to swing them around here, the way they're angled, is not going to be the easiest, because this spruce is in the way. But I'll just clean things up and see what it looks like. We'll probably just do one at a time, you know, cut one of those, drag it out, see what happens. We'll see this cluster. If there was a way that the tops could fall down between these, that's what I'd really like. It could be that some might, once I cut the butts off from the root ball. The other thing I'll do here is take this fir down, which is growing between the branches there of the cedar. That might help. But that's probably one of those. It's not going to fall anywhere. It's just going to ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. I'll just chop it off into pieces as it sort of comes down. Well, that looks a lot cleaner. Maybe a little less messy, a little less intimidating with all the junk cleaned out, except for basically the 3 trees here that I want to keep. So, once I start cutting the stems off from the roots, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'll just do it one at a time. The first 2 on this side I think should be pretty straightforward. It could be when I take those out, the others will fall down. I kind of doubt it, but it's possible. Well, I guess that was the keystone. So I have a little bit of work ahead of me to limb this up, see what's salvageable. Well, it doesn't look like there's significant damage up there. Hopefully everything will recover. Well, all cleaned up. There were a couple busted branches on this near cedar tree, but probably better than I had expected as far as damage, ease of getting them down. So we ended up with a bunch of 8-foot, 2 6-foots, including that cedar that I took down just on the other side of that big one next to the road. Lots of cleanup, so open area there for something to grow. Did get 3 poles from my corduroy road from here, from that from that fir that was growing up through the branches there, and a couple others I brought from over there that I had cut earlier, meaning a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago. That'll do it for this one, but just down the road, I mean, there's some attention there that needs to be paid to that clump of cedar. They're sort of leaning, same with this here. I don't know what's going on there. So I had marked here with the pink ribbons areas that I wanted to look at. So over here, similar thing. Leaning cedar there that's been partially uprooted. Well, it is getting towards sunset. It's actually been a long day. It's really nice down here in the valley, so to speak, my low road. I think it's been in the low 20s most of today, but down here there's no wind. And except for the morning, there's not been much in the way of flurries. But boy, coming here and going back home through the field is another story. I think the wind has died down a little bit late this afternoon, but boy, this morning it was horrible. Anyhow, that'll put the do it to it for this one. Probably we'll do some more. I'm not sure if it'll be next video or if I'll take a break and do something else for the next video. But I appreciate you watching this one and hope you stay tuned for others. Thank you.